Good morning and welcome to today's webinar. This is our regular session where we speak to innovative companies and people who are supplying products and services in the context of aged care. So what I might do is introduce everybody, but I've got everybody's name on the screen there. But what I'll do is let everybody explain in their own words who they are and what they do. And just a reminder to everybody on the session today that this is a live session, and you can ask questions at any time throughout the course of the webinar, just by typing those into the screen at the bottom. You'll see a question box at the bottom. So we'll go in the order in which I've got them listed here. So Jenny Marie, I might just let you explain a little bit about Brenna.
Sure, thanks so much, Sean. So I'm Jenny Marie, the founder of Brenna. Brenna is a communication app that streamlines nursing communication to family members of residents. So the key thing that Brenna is endeavouring to achieve is to save time for nurses, really reduce their stress and make their day so much easier. And then for family members to be receiving clear, timely, easy to understand information. So the key benefit of it being that there's structured messaging that the staff are taken through. So it takes the guesswork out for them and makes it really easy.
Great, thanks. And as I've listed there, you're a finalist in this year's Future of Aging Award, so congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
And Poya Manikeri, over to you to explain a little bit about Embrayse.
Thanks, Sean. So my name is Puya. I'm co-founder and CEO at Embrayse. We are a software company, and we help providers with managing their catering and food services and retiring pen and paper to doing that. And we want them to help create amazing dining experiences for residents. In practice, we're trying to help them get on top of compliance. We know that food and nutrition is becoming more in focus in the aged care quality standards, as well as increase their operational efficiency. So yeah, we help them with planning menus, creating nutritious meals, managing dietary profiles and preferences, and much more around food.
Great, thanks, Poya. And Ajit and Will, as co-founders of Lenexa Medical, I'll let you introduce yourself and a little bit about Lenexa Care, which is also a future of aging. In your case, highly commended. You were awarded highly commended last year, so congratulations. So tell us a bit about Lenexa Care.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. I mean, I'll start off with the intro, and I'll get Will get into the product a bit more. So Will and I met together at the University of Melbourne Biodesign Innovation Program. And as part of the program, we focused on what is an unmet clinical need right there in the marketplace, in the community. And we found pressure injuries as one of those areas where a lot of money being spent on the treatment side of things, and people are suffering both in hospitals and particularly in aged care in a lot of pain. So we've got a solution that targets quite early on in terms of the process and prevents the pressure injuries from occurring. So we have actually got a solution that is a fabric-based sensor in a bed. I'll let Will expand on that. What we want to actually do is to make sure that these residents avoid these expensive, pressure injuries, and the families are not wearing the health burden, but also for carers in terms of making sure that, time is not spent on treating these pressure injuries when the time could be spent on other care, because today they've got to come quite often and turn the patient and roll the patient quite often. So we're trying to allocate the time so it can be spent also to doing care assessments and other things, which can help the provider get additional funding as well. So it's a solution that's a win-win for the system. And I'll pass it on to Will to talk about our solution.
Thanks, Ajit. So the Lenexa Care system essentially converts your traditional mattress into a resident monitoring platform. So essentially gives the carer a second pair of eyes to be able to monitor what position somebody is sleeping in, as well as whether they're in or out of the bed. So we get a really rich and detailed history around the level of mobility that somebody has on their mattress. And so we're able to target and personalize the care that's provided relating to pressure area care. So we're able to tell you whether or not somebody's been on the same position for an extended amount of time, and feed that information back to the carers so that they can actually prioritize those who do have that lack of mobility, whilst also making sure that those who are able to mobilize themselves in bed aren't being disturbed in the middle of the night because they've got a scheduled turn in place. So we've been seeing really good results in some of the facilities we've gone into, with a 55% on average reduction of at-risk time, as well as being able to see the level of effectiveness of the care that's being provided. So it's early days, but like you said, Sean, you know, we're heading for the future, and we expect ourselves to be a big part of that.
Great. Thanks, Will, and thanks, Ajit. Yeah, it's certainly an interesting design you've got there. We've got some topics here we'll try and get through. We'll limit today to about an hour, and we'll try and cover these from the point of view of you sharing with our audience, who are a combination of both aged care providers, who will no doubt be interested in what you're doing and how it might apply in the context of their own facility. But also there's a couple of other businesses who are in the webinar who are no doubt curious about your journey. So I think these topics will give insight to both those groups. So you're all reasonably new, I think, you know, all less than 5 years old as far as businesses are concerned. So let's start with the first one, and we might start with you, Poya. Customer engagement and integration partnerships. I mean, tell us a little bit about your approach and what you've managed to achieve in that area. Your microphone's just off.
I'm on mute. Thanks, Sean. Yeah, so I might just address that maybe as two separate things. You know, our journey around customer engagement has been pretty, you know, pretty effective. And integration is always the challenge, is the big challenge for us. One of the things that we like to do as part of customer engagement and the way we work with our customers is our design pillar around remaining curious. And we're really passionate about that. You may have heard that expression of asking why 5 times. And the way we work, and that's to get to the root cause of something, the root problem. So the way we work with customers and potential customers is that, you know, we'll have a conversation and we really try to understand that core problem so that we can come up with creative solutions. Maybe I can clarify with an example. So we had a customer that we rolled out to, and very early on, we had a feedback, a feature request where they said, we would like a field where we can indicate whether someone needs assistance with eating, right? So we could have taken that at surface value, makes a lot of sense. We could just build that field and ship it. We decided to dig deeper. We asked, okay, why do you use, you know, why do you need it? Why do you, or how do you use this information? They said, okay, at the beginning of a meal service, we need to know who is requiring assistance. We actually plate up earlier and we'll serve it out and have people help them. We dug a bit deeper. Again, we didn't stop there. We asked, hey, what else would you want to track? And we actually talked to some other customers and asked, what else would you want to track at that point in time, beginning of the service? Sure enough, more examples came up. So there are some people who have requirements for high protein, high energy meals, and that needs to be prepared specially. So ultimately, after this back and forth, we ended up with a solution that was a tagging system where they could just tag a resident with any number of things, including assistance required and so on, and easily filter that. And really in that process, which really requires a lot of trust on both sides, that, you know, we're just not just putting this aside, but we're actually really engaged. Once you have that, we were able to arrive at a solution that not only was more elegant and helpful for the customer, it also kept our solution simpler over time. You know, we're not going to end up with a product in 5-10 years time that is so bloated with all sorts of fields and things, because we took the time to have that engagement. So I might pause it there. I mean, I have some thoughts on integration, but I might just let some of my colleagues speak.
Okay, thank you. And Jenny Marie, over to you.
Sure. Integration has actually been incredible for us in the pretty early stage of our product. We are building an ecosystem for the longer term. As any product in market, but particularly one that is connected to the clinical journey, it's really important to be integrated with the key systems. And so we've been progressing our journey with integration with eCase, LeCare, AliaCare, Manad, etc. And those integrations are making things a great deal more seamless for the staff. Ease of use for our product has literally been our #1 priority for staff, that it needs to be easy to use and that it needs to be intuitive. But one of the things that's really important from a compliance perspective, but also from a use perspective, is that systems talk to one another. And with a modern system, we built our system with the correct APIs from the ground up. Some of the systems that are a bit more legacy, that's a bit more of a challenge with. We've had a really good experience with some of the vendors, well, the software providers, and being able to have the systems talk to each other so well just means there is one point of entry of data. Data then flows across to our system, and it means that the integrity of data is really high. So you're not having staff entering multiple things in multiple systems and then trying to copy information from one to another. By that happening automatically, it's really incredible. So I've been really pleasantly surprised by how well other vendors have worked together with us.
Great, thanks. And Ajit and Will, you're very much in the data game, so integration, I would imagine, was a big part of your business approach.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just start, and then Will can sort of talk more about the data elements. So our philosophy was always about being that solution that's invisible, Sean. So we were not going to impose any hardware or software on any of the providers. Our mantra has been, the right information provided at the right time so they can step in and intervene. So we have designed systems that can send APIs to whatever they have at the moment, because we always felt that taking a solution into an aged care system, or even in Australia in the healthcare system. I mean, I always say US companies have done such a good job where we've got different versions of integration systems all around. We can never ever create one that answers everything, being a short and sort of agile company in the early days. So we were always sort of going to sort of create those APIs that work with whatever that we have in the market. But I'll let Will sort of try and expand on, how are we sort of using the data and what are some of been a sort of early journey. Will?
Sure, thanks, Ajay. And I mean, in terms of the really important aspect for us in terms of the customer engagement, and especially with bringing a new product to market, we know what data we can provide, but it's been really important for us to make sure that it's in the correct format, it's going to the right person, as Ajit says, it's going to them at the right time, and being flexible enough to really change to suit the needs of the facility. Of course, with different types of places where people receive information, might be on a care platform, might be on their pager, might be on their phone, might be on their email, being open and flexible enough so that we can actually send our information to all of those places, or only some of those places, or only some of those places at certain points in time. Having that flexibility has been really important for the end customer, and also having pretty frequent check-ins, especially on the outset of deployment, checking in with them, how they're using the system, how is it going, are there any places that we can actually help and guide. The education around it, the training around it has been really, really important for us too.
Yeah, okay, thank you. The next question we've got is differentiating your product, and this is probably more designed to understand some of your early journey, because if you're like a startup business initially, that was probably a key part of your business plan, I'd imagine. So, Jenny Marie, we might start with you, just because I think you're one of the youngest businesses here. I mean, am I right in thinking Brenna's maybe 18 months, 2 years, maybe? Is that about it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Just
baby.
10 months since we launched. Well, a baby that's already up and walking. So, one of the things that we did that was so important was our extensive co-design process. So seeing that there was a need, and I was a family member, I came to the idea of this product from my mum being in care for 4.5 years. I lived and breathed and experienced the problem, and also witnessed staff day to day, each time I visited, how stressed the nurses were, how much they have to do, that there are frustrations on both sides of the equation when it comes to communication. So we really worked extensively initially through validation of what is the problem, what really is needed to help with the problem. And then we worked through a 12-month co-design process with a group of 7 residential aged care homes in New South Wales, and with family members across the whole country. So we involved everyone from student RNs all the way through to CEOs in the process of developing the product. And we firmly believe that the reason it works so well, that it's so intuitive, that it's been so successful so far, is because the people that use it day to day are the people that built it.
Yeah, okay. And Poya, your approach, because I have seen some other, catering software options out there. So how did you go about differentiating your business and offering?
Yeah. So I definitely agree that I think that first and foremost, we really are concerned with what the customers need, what the providers need, and sometimes differentiating yourself, it's important, but at the end of the day, you're trying to solve a problem for a provider, and that can become a distraction. Having said that, we definitely looked at what was out there and what was available. Early on, we did something called the strategy canvas. If you're familiar with what's called blue ocean strategy, basically looking at what's out there in the market, including the incumbent, which is pen and paper. So looking at all those things and seeing where are the strengths, what are they good at, and what's missing, where is the gaps. One of those for us was user experience. So we really doubled down on creating a really intuitive, simple user experience that anyone can pick up and run with. But I think differentiation also can happen in other places. So it can be also your business model. One of the things we do, which is fairly unique in this space, is we're very transparent about our pricing. We list that on our website. We don't hide it behind a closed door. We have a full refund policy, things that I think are uncommon, I would say, in the aged care software space. So that's another place where we're trying to differentiate ourselves. And lastly, I would say messaging and positioning. So, our software can be many things to many people, and it very well should be. But how you talk about it, how your marketing material and your information and who it speaks to really matters. And that's something that we've changed a couple of times through our journey.
Yeah, thank you. And Ajit and Will, what's your opinion?
Yeah, I'll make a start again. So when Lenexa sort of created a product, we were never going to remove the carers or the providers from the equation. I mean, our solution worked very closely with the carer for the resident, because we think they're a really important part of the equation. So there are lots of bed companies, won't name names, that have got their own sort of solutions. We found them to be quite impractical, not quite addressing the need, because with all that in the marketplace, we still have a huge problem around pressure trees. So we created a solution where we felt that providing the right information to the carer was important. And as Will was actually alluding to earlier, that sort of carer engagement and staff engagement is actually part of a solution. So a solution doesn't exist in the technology vacuum in itself. It works because it is about people ultimately caring for somebody else. And as Will was saying, it's about that second pair of eyes that is actually sort of acting, and providing that care. So for us, the important thing was giving them that confidence when they were providing that care, making sure that the information that the Lenexa system was providing was accurate, was on time, was easy to understand and actually grasp. And Will can actually talk about the solutions that are out there in the market trying to solve it and how we are different, because we've got a combination of hardware, software, but ultimately it is along with the carer that the solution sort of works. Well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in terms of the product differentiating, I think we've had a similar path to Poya, and looking at what was currently out there, especially looking at the incumbent, which is that standard of care, which has kind of been in place for the past 200 years. And when we set out to look at the problem and really understand it, seeing that there were all these other technologies out there, yet the most common practice was still that 200-year-old turning schedule that was instated in the time of Florence Nightingale. And really, when you ask the question to the end user, or to the clinicians, effectively they say, well, a lot of the solutions, although they might be good in a sense, are just too impractical to actually implement at a large scale. And so we really looked at that angle, and that really made that a focus for our technology in terms of making it as seamless as possible. Like Chip was saying before, should be invisible really to both the person on the device as well as the user themselves. Really we want to just make sure that we're providing them that information that they can then go away and actually use, as opposed to making it super complicated, making it super fancy, which a lot of the, I would say, competitors, aim to do and aim to provide. We want to be really that second pair of eyes, providing that information. And that's one of the key points in how we differentiate ourselves, that practicality element, to make sure that we're empowering the user, empowering the clinicians and the carers, as opposed to applying an additional burden on them in the name of, hey, this is a better solution.
That's a nice lead into the next question, and we might just stay with you guys for a little bit longer before we go to the other speakers. But the next question is really measuring impact and outcomes, including the feedback you're getting. So as you said, your solution is very much there to empower the staff, the aged care worker, and I'd imagine make their job a lot easier to do. So, I mean, what sort of feedback are you getting after they've installed Lenexa Care?
I'll make a start. Of course, it's kind of early days for us, but some of the feedback that we have been getting has been really positive, and to the point in which kind of I was making before, that information that they just haven't had before, and being able to provide that to them, and them having visibility around what's actually going on the mattress and that level of care that's being provided. What's been really good for us is that we've had these regular check-ins, and if sometimes they're not understanding what's coming out, we can have that really continuous, that consistent feedback loop to really make sure that it's seamless and it's integrated. And so getting that feedback on a very regular basis has been extremely important for us. And really, in terms of measuring different types of outcomes, of course, trying to look at it from a clinical perspective, are we providing better care to the residents? How do the users feel about that in an operational capacity? Is it burdensome? Are we making sure that we're looking at elements like productivity, as well as in an economic sense as well? Are we helping the facility save some money, and how do we capture some of those metrics? Now, it's still early days around some of those elements, I would say, but really looking at that feasibility and that usability aspect of it, and really getting that qualitative data with the users has been where we're at currently. We will be looking to kind of in the longer run, once we have a larger sample size, a larger number of units, to then start looking at that a lot more quantitatively as well. But right now, we are collecting the feedback quite often from our user base, from our smaller user base, and continuing to grow that and looking at other ways of measuring our impact.
So at some stage, fairly soon, I presume, you'll have some good data on things such as cost savings, cost savings in time, obviously, perhaps even savings or at least improvements in staff retention. I mean, I think if you're helping staff to do their jobs better and easier, you might attract more staff to that environment and perhaps even retain more of the staff you've got. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, exactly right. And it's really working together with the facility for them to, we have, I guess, an idea around what are some of the benefits that we're looking to provide, but also we're seeing, benefits that we didn't even really know could exist or could be provided. And, so working together with the facility have really helped us to uncover some of those things, like, giving back some of the time to the staff so that they can do other things that, we might not be that privy to, but, saving them on things like documentation time, and really kind of being able to give some of that time back to them has been really important to us as well.
Right. And Poya, you're in a business where food is pretty important, because the feedback is going to be good or bad depending on people's experience.
That's right.
I imagine you're going to have a lot of good feedback to share with us, and some maybe some specific examples with clients that you've managed to really help.
That's right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. If you go talk to any resident in a residential home, food will probably be the first topic they'll talk about in terms of their day-to-day. So for us, impact is measured in several different ways. I think the obvious one is when it's so impactful that you just get an immediate feedback. I think one of the ones that really stuck with me was the hospitality manager at Matthew Flinders' home in Port Lincoln, who said, you know, I knew I needed something. I was using paper for everything, and I knew I needed something, but I could never articulate or say what it is that I wanted. And once we saw your software, it was very obvious that that's what I was looking for. So there's anecdotal things like that. But I think something that's really key, and I think very beneficial if you can build it into your product, is building that measurement, building that success or outcome measurements directly into the solution itself. So for us, you know, we have actually a component in the app where the provider can check in, that the staff can check in with the resident. We call it the service check-in. Very quickly, you know, gather whether they like the meals, if the staff are serving well. So collecting that feedback really quickly and then reporting that, so aggregating that. And so we've seen, you know, the likes of Matthew Flinders and Jim Balanga here in Queensland use that to not only capture the outcomes and the benefits of the software, but their overall effort around food in those reports and those feedback. So I think that's really a key thing to build that mechanism into your solution. I would say obviously outside of that, the one-on-one ones that we have with them very regularly, understanding again where the additional pain points are and being quick to react and enhance the software for them has been really impactful.
Interesting, yeah. And Jenny Marie, some of the impact and feedback you've been getting, because I know you're a young business, but I have read a lot about some of your success already.
Thank you. I feel incredibly grateful that we have received phenomenally positive feedback from staff and from family members using Brenna. We have had so many staff saying it's easy to use, it saves me time, I feel less stressed, we are out of stress now. You know, the sorts of beautiful comments from the staff. And when we've interviewed staff and said, how would you feel if Brenna was taken away from you now? We're met with like, oh my God, like they've just so easily integrated into their daily workflows, and it makes their life so much easier that they now couldn't imagine life without it. And managers are saying, oh my God, I'd have to retrain my staff. So the feedback we're getting from the staff is beautiful. We've had family members say things like, I love the traffic light system, which we have of green, amber, and red, because it tells me straight away how serious the issue is. I don't panic as much as I used to. So really allaying the fears and anxiety of family members, and them saying it's so nice to have all the family members get the same information at the same time, has been really beautiful to receive such lovely feedback. We get unprompted emails back in from family members saying, thank you so much. You know, even some saying, I'm 82, I was hesitant to use a piece of technology, but it was so easy to have everything all in one place and to receive the information and to have it be all clear. So we've really enjoyed getting really great feedback. And a recent example too from an aged care home in terms of outcomes and something that they really wanted to achieve was a significant reduction in complaints around communication, because that comms and engagement piece tends to be one of the highest in terms of categories of complaints. That's always up there in the top 5 when we see the quarterly reports from the Commission. And so the particular home, the Royce, which is out in Penrith, it's quite a large aged care home. So within 2 months of using Brenna, I had their Chief Operating Officer say to me, we have to report to the board about our top 3 complaints, and not only has complaints around communication completely dropped out of that and completely reduced, we now have it being as our #1 compliment, that we are receiving appreciation in relation to the way that we are communicating with and engaging with family members. So to have that turnaround in such a short space of time, I think is pretty amazing. So we're really grateful for such great feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it reflects on, I mean, these innovations that each of you have, they reflect so well on the aged care provider, especially when, like in your case, Jenny Marie and Poya obviously as well. I mean, they're very much client facing. I mean, the feedback is there that clients are able to share, and obviously family members too. So
helps to engage, improve the trust, and the foundation, the absolute foundation of care is trust. Residents need to trust that they're being well taken care of. They need to trust the staff. Management need to trust their staff, and family members need to trust that staff and management are really taking good care of the residents, because we hand our loved ones over, and I say we because I had the personal experience myself of we hand someone over in a very vulnerable position 24 hours a day, and all you then have is the information that you're provided, is the service that you're provided. And so those key elements really do make a very significant difference, because it's such a people-centered business.
Absolutely. We might stay with you a bit longer, Jenny Marie, because the next question is all about networking and collaboration, but we'll go to everybody as well, because I think the sheer fact that you're all on this call shows that you take networking and collaboration quite seriously. Not to mention that some of you have entered our awards, which is another aspect. But so, Jenny Marie, you've also, beyond being somebody who's done some networking and collaboration, you've also gone one step further and started a group that really brings people together and perhaps even helps others who are new to the industry really integrate.
Yeah, so we started a group called Australian Aged Care Innovators, or AACI for short. We like the acronym. So what we have been conducting this year is what we call network and learn events. So we're bringing people together from across the industry, like-minded, both professionals or just interested people from aged care providers, consultants, innovators, that are all interested in advancing innovation in aged care and just generally improving care. So myself and another founder, Julie Hogarth-Williams, who's the founder of the Seniors Channel, have started these events. And the purpose of them is to get people together in a friendly environment, because networking and working together and being collaborative, we think really is the way forward. It's also just a much nicer way to do business. It's really nice to then be having calls with people that you've had a chat to and had a drink with at an event, because you've met with them on a peer level, as opposed to it always being, sort of business to business. And so developing friendships and those networks across the industry, I think, is really lovely. And for myself and Julie, it's really us also showing that we're here for the long term, that we're really committed to the sector, and that our commitment to the sector goes beyond just our own products, and that we really are committed to improving aged care and to bringing innovators together as well. It's amazing the connections even that just other innovative companies have had with one another. How can we collaborate? How can we do things better? How can we do more integrations? And so we had a wonderfully successful event in Sydney, one in Brisbane, and now we have one in a fortnight's time in Adelaide. It's the Tuesday night before the National ACPA conference, so a nice bash to start off the week. And we have some great keynote speakers and panel members that will be in what we call our education section of the night. So if anyone is interested, I'd love you to get in touch with me or to look up Australian Aged Care Innovators on LinkedIn.
In fact, we'll put a video of this session up on our website after, and I'll include a link if you have a registration link. I'm happy to.
Absolutely, we do. Thanks.
Just make it easy for people. And Poya, networking and collaboration, what have you done, and what has been your thoughts on that area to get started? Because your business started a few years ago now. Is it maybe 3 or 4 years old?
Yeah, that's right. We're about 3 years old at this stage. First of all, I want to thank you, Jenny Marie. I attended the event in Brisbane, and I think it was great. It was a great opportunity to connect with innovators and providers in this space. Look, not a whole lot to add. I think the one thing I would comes to mind is that having been, so we obviously attend a lot of conferences and events as such. Those are great opportunities to connect with the community and the aged care, I guess, industry as a whole. But we've also identified there are two types of organizations. You will know ones that are open to collaboration, and you go to a booth and they're open and want to talk, and there are ones that are perhaps a bit more closed, and so we try to focus our efforts on those who are open, who want to collaborate, and are really focused again on the final outcome for recipients of care, and that's their mission. Usually that ends up being the younger companies, more innovative companies, and ones who are willing to kind of come to the table, but not always. There are definitely all the companies who are open, and that's where we want to spend our time with.
So you were saying the younger companies are a little bit more open, whereas perhaps established.
Yeah. And I mean, part of that is natural, but I do think there is a younger generation of solution builders coming to this space who are perhaps coming from a different background and where collaboration in other industries works really well, they're bringing that into aged care. And I think that's really effective.
And Ajit and Will, I mean, how have you gone on the collaboration front? Because I'd imagine you would need to probably collaborate with a number of different areas.
Yeah, and I think it's very important to also sort of note that, I mean, in aged care, it's about people caring about people, ultimately. And, it doesn't matter how amazing your solution is or what you can do. I mean, if someone can actually trust you and work with you, then you've actually got an in to have the first conversation. So and what we have actually found is, it's not about getting the next best salesman in the planet to talk about your value proposition. It's more about you sort of doing the initial hard yards, reaching out to connectors, and actually talking about how your solution can be bigger when you combine with somebody else. I mean, we were so fortunate enough to know Jeannie Marie. I mean, Jeannie Marie is a super connector. So we shared a booth with her in a couple of places. And through some of those sort of conversations, we were able to talk to some of those sort of providers that do integration into aged care. And now we're taking a solution to somebody else, which is sort of offering an integrated solution. So suddenly you look like a puffer fish. You're bigger than sort of the sum of your parts. So I think collaboration is certainly important. And it's I mean, I just want to say that we should see more of it, because as Poya was saying, I mean, it's hard for some of the sort of early companies to get a look in because you don't have an established brand, you don't have an established track record, and nobody wants to be the first person to try your solution. It's always hard to get to the first base, but if you can offer an integrated sort of proposition where you say your solution works well with somebody else who's already an established player, but you've got to win that first trust, and then you've got to weigh in. And I think we can all win by offering a bundled solution. I mean, it's a win-win for the provider as well. They don't have to speak to 10 people and evaluate. It all already comes integrated. They don't have to talk about that integration conversation. There's also savings on all ends and information is provided at the right time. So, Will, anything to add?
Yeah, no, I'll just echo the same thing. There's a bunch of new solutions out there and a bunch of the same problems and challenges that everyone's going to face. So there's no point reinventing the wheel every single time, and having a collaborative, integrated approach, especially from our perspective as well. We have to send our information to the same places where potentially everybody else is already sending their information to. So having that kind of recognition of some of the same challenges of people who have already cracked it has been really important for us.
Yeah. Sean, that's part of what we're endeavouring to achieve with the Australian Aged Care Innovators as well, that providers can come to one event and to meet lots of different people all at one time, because they've got so much to do, so many different priorities. And so bridging that gap of making it easier for providers to meet with companies and solutions and vice versa is a key thing of why we've created it and why we think it's nice to do that in a casual setting. Not everyone can get to the conferences. They're big, they're naturally expensive and so forth. So for innovators, but also for people from aged care providers, I mean, we absolutely encourage and would love to see more and more providers coming to our events to network, of course, have some fun. They're meant to be fun, and to be able to then talk to multiple people about different offerings, different solutions, just different ideas. We've had some people collaborate after the events, particularly after the Sydney event. There's some people that have started creating some ideas and working together. And that's just such a fabulous way for innovation within the industry to really further advance. I loved what Poya said about how bringing people in from other industries, people that are young and are really keen to help this industry, because it absolutely is an industry that needs so much help and support and encouragement, and that's why I think each of us are here.
Yeah, no, well said. And your comment, Ajit, I like your comment about not everybody wants to be first, and it's something I often refer to. I sort of say everybody wants to be the first to be second. They want to see something somewhere else first, and then they'll embrace it. And I know we've written for Inside Aging, we've written a couple of case studies, and I've kind of said to the companies, this is going to work to show that it's been done before. and take perhaps maybe some of the fear out of it that do this until I've seen how another provider has gone with it. But yeah, and Jenny Marie, yeah, nicely put. I mean, I think everybody on this call, and generally speaking, we only run these type of things with these type of conversations with companies that have real credentials. They've got runs on the board. You know, maybe they've won one of our awards or at least entered an award, but they're genuine and committed to the industry. So a reminder to everybody on the call that you can still ask questions, and we're getting close to the end, but the last topic or question I've got is really, what do we see as the future of care? It's a simple question, but I think the answer is not so simple. And luckily, I think everybody on this call is offering something that's quite different, which is intentional. We try to get people from different areas, but I think the sum of the parts, as somebody has said, is what is going to drive the future of care. So, I mean, I know each of our individual offerings are a small part of that, but what would we see as the genuine end game here? What is the future of aged care for the consumer in the long run? Maybe Poya, we'll start with you, because food, no matter what technology does, food's going to be a critical part of it.
You got 8. That's right. Look, I think when I saw the question, I think one thing that comes to mind is technology comes and goes. Things change when it comes to technology. I'm actually a software developer by background, so I love to geek out about artificial intelligence and robots and AI, all those things. That's lovely. But I think everyone here would recognize that the thing that endures, the thing that remains the same, is that human connection, and how that human to human interaction is the thing that will always be important to care. So when I think about our goals and our mission, I think about, you know, every minute that I save a staff member not sift through an Excel sheet or print a piece of paper or look through a huge whiteboard of names with allergies. Every minute I help people, save that time. It's time that then they can go and spend time with a resident. They can sit down and say, hey, what would you like to eat today? How can I make your day great today? Or how can I plate the most beautiful dish that you've had? And so when I think about the future, I think the ideal future is when we use technology and innovation to take away those low value menial tasks that are not like, you know, the core of care, and give more time to carers to spend time, give more time for that human connection and interaction.
Well said. Thank you. And Will and Ajit, what's your view?
Will?
I guess from my perspective, really having the approach where, you know, every resident, every customer, every person is being cared for in the way that they want to be cared for. So having a really personalized, individualized approach to care, to make sure that, you know, you're not going to the same person with really a blanket approach. And I guess using our technology, what we're trying to provide as an example, you know, everybody is different when they sleep. And so the care that's being provided, you know, is a 200-year-old standard where everybody gets moved every 3 or 4 hours, you know, despite the fact that everybody moves differently. And, you know, we see this in many facets of care, you know, across acute care all the way into aged care, where there are a lot of generalized and blanket approaches, which we know are not the most effective, yet it is an easier way to deliver care, because, you know, a lot of the tools really aren't available. And being able to provide the level of information so that everybody is being catered for in the way that they should be catered for based on what they need, is where I see, I guess, the future of healthcare, not just aged care, is going.
Thank you. Ajit, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, like in our travels, we have sort of heard this stats that actually says, I'm not sure how true it is, about 40% of aged care residents, once they go to an aged care, nobody comes to see them till the day they die. It's such a shocking sort of thing to sort of think about. We have visited many aged care facilities. Some of them actually look like prisons. You just locked there, full of dementia patients. You know, they can't sort of leave the place. It is so sad. Whereas there are some that are run beautifully. I would want to move there today. It's better than the place where I live. So you see this huge contrast of places from one end to the other end. We have seen technologies coming in the market where people are, it's called Tomcat. We were introduced to one of those companies where they give you a pet robot. So it looks like a cat or, a dog. You can just pet it, but it's like an interactive tool to keep you company. It remembers stuff for you, short of being a robotic carer next to you. I mean, my thoughts are the future of care is all about choice. So you don't have to go to a particular aged care center. It's all about you define a pod, a system, a place. You design the environment where you'll want to, and technology would be available for you to sort of get that service. I mean, we can see that sort of coming. We can see drugs being developed to slow down aging. There are trends coming. I mean, there are talks about people trying to sort of get their consciousness sort of stored in a device that would just last beyond their years. So we're just at the tip of things, but I think care in a setting where people feel that interaction, not going to a place where they're locked up and where the average age of a resident is 2 years, is not the way to go. I mean, it's a lot more holistic living. It's a lot more sort of life just starts sometimes at 70.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful. I want to be in a better place when I get there.
Sean, may I add a healthy dose of reality to those comments?
Absolutely.
I absolutely believe that as the and it's called a gigantic generational shift of baby boomers moving into the aged care age, a never seen before number of people that are all going to be requiring care at the same time. They have vastly different expectations of the predominant current generation in care. So absolutely, they're going to want personalized care and choice. Oh, and by the way, their children also have vastly different expectations. But we've got to manage that with, on the other side, how do we appropriately care for such a significant increase in people? And the realities of wanting everything to be personalized and individual and super high levels of care for each person, I don't know how we're going to achieve that. There certainly is going to need to be technology that is an adjunct and assistance to providing that care. Anything we can do to make things easier for staff and to make their life more efficient, more effective, and make them want to stay in their role, let alone attract more people to the role, is going to be fundamentally important. And that's where the innovation, I think, largely needs to sit. Of course, the resident is important, but without people to care for the residents, we are in trouble. And the workforce element is really the largest focus, concern, everything. Like, you ask any aged care provider CEO, what are the things that keep them up at night? And by sure, the first answer will be workforce, or at least the second. So I think that we are looking at a future that needs to really think about how do we appropriately service the needs that are coming, and this huge shift of needs that are coming, both in terms of numbers and in terms of expectations. Yeah,
absolutely. That's a nice way to finish, Jenny Marie. And it's every time I do one of these sessions, we've done quite a few. I'm always thinking about topics for the next one, and I suppose this is probably a call out for a bit of help. Anybody that's listening to this, whether it's the recording or live now, we don't profess to have all the answers either. So I'd love some topic suggestions, because at the moment we try to bring together companies and individuals who are doing good work in the space, but there's obviously areas that we're not covering that we should. So whether it's story suggestions for Inside Aging or topic suggestions. I mean, Jenny Marie, your suggestion with workforce there, just the challenges, it's something we write about, but to be honest with you, we've never done a session that really talks about workforce. I mean,
I'd be happy to come and talk about it. It's been our core focus, and in terms of you saying, like, what did we look at in terms of problem space and differentiating the offering? That's been our absolute core focus. The linchpin of an aged care home is registered nurses, and there is a mammoth shortage, and that shortage is only going to continue. So our focus, and the reason the tool is different, is because it's about RNs and RN communication to family members, saving them time, making that easier. Because it just, time and time again, everyone says we don't have enough staff. Our staffing ratios are a challenge, not just because residents and families are saying they want more staff, but because they literally can't get enough people to be able to staff shifts. And I can't see that challenge going away.
Mm,
And
absolutely.
again, Sean, look from our end as well. Our solution is about, that second pair of eyes. So, you don't have to, I mean, we have got this sort of impose on all of us to spend certain number of care minutes on someone. I mean, I get it. That's a great idea, great noble idea, but it's hard to sort of fulfill that even with the current shortage of staff. So we're trying to go, don't force all that care on someone. Just spread that where it's needed. Lenexa can actually look out for you as that invisible guardian on the bed, monitoring you 24/7. So, we're trying to sort of meet that need as well with our solution. So I echo that, Jeannie Marie, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a beautiful example from Ajit about how the Lenexa medical product is an adjunct. So it's not going to take away a staff member needing to pop and check, but they won't have to do it as often. They won't have to wake people up in the middle of the night. That invisible extra assistance is a really nice way to describe it. And that's partly what we're going to need to do. No one has a magic bullet to suddenly find, another 10,000 RNs that we're saying, they're currently in shortage, or 25,000 care workers. If we can chink away at things and be, helpful, and that's how Embrayse works and the Lenexa Medical works and Brenna works. It's like we're helping. No one's got a magic bullet solution, but it is the little extra bits of, if we can help you this way and help your staff this way and help your staff that way, overall, everyone's going to have a better experience. Staff, residents, and families. It's looking at all the participants. So I do find sometimes the language around care is so focused on the care recipient, so the resident in aged care, because mine's very specific to residential aged care, and of course, absolutely they are a focus, but we also have to keep focus on staff, executive management, family members, because they're all part of the care puzzle, and those people and their lives and their well-being and their stress levels are actually just as important as the resident.
Is anybody seen any feedback already from your solutions where perhaps the feedback is, and I know I've mentioned this earlier, but I'm really looking for some feedback on how staff have reacted. Have staff decided to stay in their role because of it's an easier place to work now that we have this new system, or if you've been able to attract more staff because, hey, we like working for this provider because they use this system and it's just much easier. I mean, are we starting to see that from your dealings?
I've had specific feedback on that. So the general manager of Green Hill Aged Care, Parveen, has said to me that in interviews with RNs, she says to them, if you come here as opposed to another aged care facility, your day will be easier because you'll have more time. They're like, well, how am I going to have more time? It's like, well, because we use Brenna, and she shows them the solution. And she said that has been effective in attracting RNs to the 2 aged care homes that she manages, because time management is the reason that RNs are stressed. Being able to finish everything in a day, feeling like they're not present with their residents and don't have enough time with people, and that sort of chook with your head cut off feeling of like, there's always more to do, there's always more to do. So the only way to help with that is to have things that save time. The fact that she is proactively using that in her job interviews, I thought was just a beautiful piece of feedback.
Would anybody like to add anything else? Perhaps
and again, in our instance, Sean, I mean, without naming names, for us, it's more about trying to ensure compliance. So the aged care provider and the managers have gotten a visibility around, are there certain trends of care different during different shifts? Are there certain evenings where, certain staff are doing just the bare minimum versus what's actually required? We've had training being given to staff based on the data that they're actually seeing on the system, because there's one thing that doesn't lie, which is actually the system. I mean, it's like an X-ray on the bed. Essentially, it tells you what actually happened to the resident without actually having the camera there. So we've had some really good feedback from CEOs saying actually they wish that it is on all their beds, but this is just a start. But it's actually helped to sort of show some early signs on where their staff needs can be directed better. So promising.
And I guess I'll add to that. One of the first things that happens when we do an onboarding of a customer is there'll be a few people who are like, oh, I don't know, I'm old, I don't know how to use this. Like there's always a level of discomfort, and easily within a couple of weeks, not only those people who specifically said they're uncomfortable with using technology. And I think a lot of times they'll use saying, "Oh, I'm not tech savvy," even though in reality they're using their phone for all sorts of apps. Once they use the app, once they realize actually a good, well-designed piece of software, how easy it is, and how it's almost a joy to use. They're on board. They can imagine going back to their previous model of work. So we definitely have had that feedback.
Terrific. Now, well, thank you everybody for joining us. It's been a good discussion, and we're sort of on the 1 hour mark now, which is good. As I said, I'll have this up on the website later for everybody that's on the call. You can refer back to it. We'll also have a link to Jenny Marie's event if you'd like to register for that. And I'll start thinking about our next topic. And I'll also have a link on the website where if you want to email me a topic idea or at least suggest something, I'm sure we can try to incorporate it down the track in our schedule. So thanks again, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sean.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Boy.
Thanks, everyone.
Jenny Marie. See you, Will.
See ya.
Bye.